All right, it's showtime. We are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our live show today. I'm super excited to be here. My name is April Sabral from retailu. I've got with me my friends from the Rise Up Retail Summit. I've got Kareem Dakar. Am I saying that right, Kareem?
Yes, Corinne Dukier, but yeah, French, Moroccan. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
All right. The Fresh Prince of Retail. I love it. I just love that
The one
name.
and
Fresh Prince of
only.
Retail.
Thank you.
The one and only. And I've got Chandrise, who's the author of The Retail Hustle, with me today. Welcome to both of you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Such a pleasure to be here in such high esteemed company, the Retail Hustle. What a book! Go read it.
Yes,
I just read it and literally read it in a day. I couldn't
you
stop
did.
reading it, Chandrise. It was just like it was speaking my language. So just
Sure.
huge congratulations. So if you want to just introduce yourself for anybody that's finding us, like Kareem, we'll start with you. Introduce yourself, a bit of your background, your history, how you've now become the Fresh Prince of Retail, just a bit of your retail experience so that anybody finding this knows exactly who you are.
Mhm.
Yeah, basically, I've been around the retail block, started in department stores, worked my way through department stores, kind of dabbled in personal development all the way through. So when I worked for a big major retailer in the UK called Selfridges, just drop that in. Yeah, it was about like training development and all that kind of stuff. And then I went into retail operations and trying to breed excellence and kind of worked with a major brand called Aldo, worked for them for 16 years, love them. Well, brilliant brand. Everyone's kind of heard of them. Get your shoes there because they're some of the best shoes on the planet. Worked in the Middle East and then decided to go back into the training recruitment, retail consulting kind of vibe, obviously influenced by the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the one and only, the original, and kind of like to make things unique, cool, fun, hang around with cool people like I am today, and that's me and my vibe really. So yeah, just happy
Amazing.
to be here.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you. All right. And Chandrise, do you want to do the same? Just introduce yourself for anybody finding this in their feed, who you are, what you've been up to, what's
Sure.
your retail career, and how it led you to the retail hustle.
Yes, for sure. So, good morning, everyone, or afternoon, wherever you at today or right now. But my name is Chandrise Dixon. I've been in retail leadership for over 20 years now. I came in it right out of college, and I like to tell people it was everything I needed and everything I didn't know I needed. So definitely a student of retail. I've had an opportunity to work for two incredible brands that I think have not only been such an impact, I think, on customers, society, the communities that they live in, but just such a huge impact on me and my development, which ultimately led me to write the book called The Retail Hustle, because I got so much knowledge and so much development through working with those two companies. It was just so important to pay it forward. So you definitely, if you're curious, The Retail Hustle is out on Amazon now. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, and you're like being very shy about the brands you worked for because you worked for Target and Apple. So
Target and Apple, yes. So retail.
I'm just saying that. I got to pull it out of you because you're not used
Yes.
to being on lives, right? But Target and Apple are two very significant brands
Mhm.
in the
Huge.
US.
Mhm.
Huge, huge, massive
Just a
leadership.
little bit, just a
That's
little
A little
bit.
bit. I worked at Apple for, a bit back in 2010, and I thought the leadership development and the recruiting development that I actually acquired when I was a guest recruiter there was pretty significant. It impacted the way that I interviewed for sure, like in the industry.
really, yeah.
Yeah. So,
It
so
impacts
yeah.
your communication and way you interact with people. They have such a huge program. For sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, talking about the state of retail right now, I mean, I get people texting me, calling me, asking me advice, like they're putting, thinking about like how do they win the year. The state of retail right now is hard to recruit for. That's what I'm hearing.
Mhm.
Really hard to retain people. And, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, but in my experience over the years, the top two reasons why people either join a company or leave a company is the leader they work for or the leader that they don't work for. And then number two, the personal development, professional development that they get given. It's never the pay. I know people like used to call me and be like, oh, I've lost a manager again, and like they resigned, and it's because they got offered, you know, $10,000 or $5,000 more money, whatever it was, and they'd be like, there's nothing I can do. I'd pick up the phone and I'd call them, and I'd get a completely different story, right? Because I was like the parachute person that would like retain everybody on the team.
Right.
That's why I always heard, and people don't like admitting that or like acknowledging that, but that really is. But when you know this is such an easy thing to fix.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
absolutely.
So, I mean, what's your opinion on that? Like the state of retail and, you know, retention, recruitment, you know, how do we keep people engaged? And I'll just start with you, Chandris.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's such a huge question, April. And it's something that I know you and I've talked about often and a lot of my peers. But right now, and with the state of retail, there's a lot happening, right? We were talking about 2020 before we became live, right? But you think about the amount of competition that's online. So you have a online competitiveness. You have a lot of turnover happening. You have a huge opportunity around training and leadership in order to lead through that. So I think one of the best ways to stay competitive and to really ensure that retail stays around for a while is ensuring that you have the right leaders in place. And along with having the right leaders in place, there's a huge opportunity for training, because when you have well-trained teams that feel seen, feel heard, feel acknowledged, feel developed, feel like they have clear expectations about where they're headed and where they're at in terms of contributing to that, then you have great customer experience. You can drive great sales. But I think that there's a huge opportunity right now in being able to lean in on having a right leader in order to be able to execute that and ultimately create some of the best environments. I am one who is a strong believer that every environment starts with the leader. And I think that through development of the leader and the leaders having awareness about who they are, right, is a huge component of that. And through awareness, what are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? And am I surrounded around a team who have my strengths that I have as opportunities, right? Because when you have that in awareness, then you can do a better job in leading and communicating and developing your leaders to develop your teams and ultimately have the best experiences. And I say this because I've lived it. They used to call me the fixer. I wasn't necessarily proud of that name, but one of
name.
But it was an opportunity to go into some of these complex environments where there was a lot of turnover, and a lot of our customers at the time was going to shop online because they're walking into our brick and mortars having the best experiences. But I had to step back as a leader and ask myself, what am I spending my time? What am I working on? What am I focused on? But in order to get to that point, I had to invest in development, both personally and professionally. So I do think that the state of retail is challenged because of the turnover, because of online. And I highly believe that part of that solve is investing in our leaders' development, us investing in ourselves to understand where our strengths are, where opportunities are, in order to build great teams around us to help us execute at a very high level.
Oh, I love that. That's so well said. Thank you so much.
Which is why Rise at Retail is going to be. Rise at Retail is such a huge opportunity, and I know that I'm super excited about it because in the ecosystem of leaders, retail leaders, like we're needed, like we impact day to day. And so I think that Rise at Retail would be a huge contribution to it. And I'm super excited about it, for not only for myself and what we're going to get out of it, but ultimately where I'm hoping it can help our retail leaders out there continue to develop.
Love it. Kareem, what can you add?
For sure. Like, how do I follow that? Huh? Answered everything. I think I'm going to go back to COVID and COVID times, right? And I think, for many of us working in retail, it was the first time that I'd have like a long time off to kind of self-reflect. And I think there's a lot of people who have got, let's say, a negative outlook on retail in terms of like when you talk about schools and education, there's like a massive missing piece. I don't hear anyone going into schools and education kind of saying, this is the beauty of retail. You can do this job and you can do that job and you can work in HR and facilities and maintenance. You can become country managers and move around the world and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of think that people have stepped back and they're kind of looking at, at the online kind of thing and kind of thinking, maybe retail's not an attractive industry. And that now that retail has to live up to those expectations. And I feel that, like in sync with what you and Sean Rees definitely think, is that the retail store is the power of the brand. We were talking about Apple just a few seconds ago. Apple is a massive brand, and yes, you can say it's the power of the product, but I feel these days customer service is even more important. And one of the things that Rise Up Retail will help with is regional managers. I think they've got so much on their plate, in terms of when COVID happened, there was like a backlog of stock, and they were kind of fighting that, and then there were some stores closing and all that kind of stuff. And I think they're constantly firefighting, from my experience. Wherever I've gone in the world, whether it's the Middle East or the UK or even in Canada, and the regional managers are constantly on the go, firefighting, and almost to a certain extent that personal development piece, and anxiety, and guys like me and everybody else kind of coming out and saying it's okay for a guy to have anxiety. It's okay for us to kind of share. That regional managers really need to be trained in that kind of discipline. I'm very fortunate in my career. I've kind of done retail operations, training development, and a bit of coaching. And I had no clue what kind of coaching was about, or personal development. But I think through hanging out with cool people like you guys, I've kind of learned about personal development, that personal development space, how coaching is kind of asking questions, and really how to treat the staff on a really different level to kind of give them that employee engagement. And I think that's more needed now. One of the things that I talk about a lot is love your team. And Sandrine, you were kind of saying that it's about that team vibe, it's about that family vibe, it's about us winning together, and that's what Rise Up Retail is all about. And yeah, I think it's definitely on that wavelength.
Yeah, and it's like, what I'm so excited about is exactly that population that you just talked about, Kareem, that regional, that multi-site management population where everything gets piled on them because they're kind of the in-between from all the issues and the directives that are coming down to then filter it through to the stores. And this is the population that when I led, literally were the ones that never got trained to do that job. Like it was probably you were the store manager, you had the best results, or you had good communication, and you literally would get promoted through the pipeline, but there was never any development provided for this group. And they're usually the ones that are creating all the development and the training for the managers. Exactly. And what I experienced was a lot of them like finding TED Talks, or, getting really scrappy and really creative about finding resources that can help their teams learning about communication, conflict management skills, leadership. But that's why I think this is so significant, because now we're bringing all of these leaders together in our industry that, number one, have done the job, have walked in your shoes, that can share their experiences, can share their strategies and their tactics about how they did it. People like myself that went from like store manager to vice president. How did I do that? It didn't just happen, right? It didn't just happen. It happened over a period of time, but it happened with intention. It happened with strategies, with techniques, right? And now I'm known for like positive leadership, but I always demystify what that sounds like, because it sounds like very fluffy, and it's not. It's intentional. So I think that's what's going to be super key, that we've all come together. And like, I'm like bothering everybody about it right now. I'm like sending voicemails and text messages because, people read emails or like see a post and they just skim and they don't really get what it is. But what it is all of us collectively coming together and sharing our experience, our knowledge. And you'll have like 4 different people that have ran stores and different things, but they'll be talking about leadership from, addressing fears, strong communication. I love what you're talking about, Kareem, when it comes to like young people and how they see retail as a career, because I went into a school not long ago and talked to them about retail as a career in New Jersey, and said literally, by the time you're 30, you could be making 6 figures and you'll have no school debt. And they were like, what? Like they had no clue. They were like, I know people that are 45, 50 that have school debts of $700 a month right now. And it's taking away from their life experience. So I'm not saying don't go to school, but I'm saying that there's an avenue. But I also think that like the middle layer of management significantly is the ones that have the biggest impact on your store's sales, your store results, because that one visit that doesn't go exceptionally well, or that one phone call that wasn't done the right way, right, in terms of communication leadership, it can impact like a ripple, like it's like a ripple throughout your organization. So
Absolutely.
that's what I'm super excited about, having something for that population that can inspire them. Like, we're going into the rest of the year. It's like, how are you going to win the year? That's
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. I love that. And I truly believe that exactly what you and Kareem was saying is you win the year through development. Like you being aware of what you need and what your team needs and what you don't need sometimes comes through development. And I think Rise Up Retail is gonna, I think, kind of sets the stage for that as we kind of think about the rest of the year in retail.
Yeah. So, like, another random question, because I like these random questions, is like, what's one of the biggest lessons you learned in your career?
Yeah, I'll go first this time, and I'll jump in. I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned was that not to become, as a leader, too focused and too KPI centric. It was all about the sales. Obviously, read the retail hustle. I'm just listening on and getting in on the hustle bit. Retail is about sales, and it's all about the sales and hitting the KPIs and all that kind of stuff. But one thing one of the biggest mistakes that I made, and one of my, the GM of the company kind of gave me a slap and was kind of like, Karim, get back on the people. And I was always like a good recruiter, but it goes beyond that recruitment. It's about getting the best people in, and then really investing quality time on training them and developing them. We've just all spoken about how difficult it is to recruit great people in retail these days, which is even more reason why the people that you have, oh my God, you need to kind of look after them, nurture them, and get them ready. So when the next person or the next opportunity comes, they're kind of ready for it. You've seen some great people like all ourselves as well, getting promoted to, from store manager to kind of country managers to VPs and stuff. And I'll tell you honestly that there were some things that I wasn't ready for. I went from a store manager of one store to managing 132. And whilst it was a great career move and all that kind of stuff, there was things that I was not ready for. And if I'd had better personal development, if I'd been coached, if I'd had that kind of feedback, it would have made me more ready for it, and it would have made me more prepared. And someone of a lesser nature, we all hustle, all the three of us. Someone you could lose people. They could walk out the door. Then you're back to square one. You don't want to be going into the holiday season, losing your best people and all that kind of thing. So that was my mistake, that I kind of forgot the people element, which is the most important side, and really, not just have I think we all kind of think, let's have a new season kickoff, autumn, winter, spring, summer. Let's do a kickoff. Let's do a one-day event. Let's get everybody there. Let's get them excited. Let's, pay for their meals, etc. And you kind of think you've done your job, but you actually haven't. That employee engagement is not a one-off event. It's like a every day, every month, every hour kind of event in retail. So yeah, that was
I love that you said it's not a one-day event, because the summit is designed, and so for anybody finding this, the summit is designed to have every Tuesday afternoon a 90-minute session for 6 weeks, so it becomes repetitive over time, and you also have access to the replays. So it's not a full day event. It's literally, because people are like calling me and going, what day is it on? And I'm like, no, it starts on the 19th, but it runs for 6 weeks,
right?
And you can show up live, ask questions, or you can watch the replays, but you're going to get 2 speakers every week that are going to share this information, and then it just becomes repetitive. So literally you're going to get off these 90 minutes and be so inspired that you're going to jump in and be able to put these things in action with your team. That's going to make a big difference going into the busiest time of the year. So I love that you said that, Kareem. It's not just a one-day event.
Yeah, the practicality of the recordings as well. We all work in retail, and how often has it been that difficult where you've tried to get all your team together in one go, and someone can't make it, or someone's covering the night shift?
You got a call, or
yeah. So that's perfect, right?
Yeah. What about you, Chandris? What's one of the biggest lessons? I read your book, but I'm going to let you share.
Yes. One of the biggest lessons, I've learned so many, and I was very fortunate that early in my career, I failed, and I fell quickly, and I fell forward. But one of the biggest lessons I think that I learned was really learning who I was as a leader. So often, when we're coming up, we have people we admire, and we see their leadership styles and how they impact. And sometimes, because you don't understand who you are, you're trying to compile all of them together. And I did that and made some of the biggest mistakes with people. right? Rubbing them the wrong way, not being able to inspire, not communicating as effectively as I would have liked to. And so I was fortunate enough to have some really great mentors who shared a lot of tough feedback with me. And it really helped evolve me from an authentic standpoint to really figure out who I was, what I was good at, and what I need to continue to work on. And the reason that was so important is because once I figured that out, I figured out people, right? Because then I knew interacting and communicating with people. When you're leading another team of leaders, even though those leaders are high performing or they're impactful, they're human, and they want to know that they can connect with you, they can be vulnerable, they can ask those questions that's needed to be successful. And when you do think about like what's happening in the fourth quarter, right, with Christmas and hiring and things moving, like people want to be able to come up to you and connect with you. And when you build that connection, then the development starts, and then the trust starts, and then I think it builds an organic form of individual development plans. And so learning to be authentic, learning to be vulnerable, learning to bring people along with me allowed me to go into some complex environments within retail, lead some incredible leaders because they saw me as human. And I think that's something you're never really taught, whether as a multi-leader, as a store leader, it's assumed that you get people because of performance. And sometimes those two things don't correlate. So it gets me excited when I think about Rise at Retail, because one of the courses that I'm excited about is mindfulness, right? Mindfulness, mastering workplace mindfulness, right? And I think that that's huge. I mean, I had to be mindful in my lesson in order to grow as a leader. So I think that having the ability to do that, and hopefully maybe jumping and joining in Rise at Retail and learning more about that, can be huge, even just preparing for the fourth quarter and how you connect with your team during difficult times.
Ooh, I love that. And Phil, who is going to be presenting that, who is the Chief People Officer at Ardennes, she's been in retail a very long time. She's held significant roles. And I've worked with her in the past, and she is so good at presenting this in a way that you can take it back. I mean, they've won awards under her leadership for implementing it in their business, and they have 350 stores, and they were able to make it a way of life from the top all the way down. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It happened through practices they put in place over a period of years. But because they've had that experience now, she can now share and talk about it, right, in a way that instead of just having it like as a checklist, like this is on our list to do and we're going to do it, she can actually share with you how they did it. So I am super excited you talked about that. I'm excited to host it, but I'm excited to like literally like sit as a participant and learn, right? Like,
like learn from everyone, right? Like
100%. And I like what you said about leaders of leaders. The leaders of leaders, like who gives the leaders of leaders development, right? Like, what I learned, one of the biggest lessons I learned in my career is being a leader of leaders when I was my first kind of like, my second regional director job is belief. Like I got given a goal that I just didn't believe in, right? And I spent time arguing that goal to be like, this isn't realistic. And like, how do you want me to get my team to do this? And like, this is just, and it was a Black Friday goal. I wrote about it in The Positive Effect, the $1 Million Chocolate Bar story. But that lesson for me was so huge because I was literally like, in my mind, I was like, I can't do it. So nobody else could do it. So we were trying to figure out how to convince everybody not to. That didn't work, obviously. And like my boss at the time was like, if you don't believe it, you're not going to achieve it. That's all she said. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I had to find a way to get everybody to buy in and believe. And we surpassed the goal that I didn't think we could achieve.
Yes.
So this is really critical in the last quarter because maybe you didn't have a strong back to school. Maybe you didn't have a strong second quarter. So now you're picking up the numbers, because we all know in retail, like, it's never enough. Like you can have a goal, but you got to pass it. Like it's always about more. The goals are never the goals. So it's kind of like, that in itself, I'm going to be talking about that and sharing that story and going into some best practices that you can do to kind of shape your belief system, as well as making sure that you're fueling and getting buy-in from your team to buy in and believe into a goal and what you can do about that. Because if everybody's mind is on the goal and thinking they can do it, you've got now all of this powerful energy, this powerful thought process, and everybody's working towards it and you can surpass it. So That's one of my biggest lessons. And it's not like how to merchandise a wall or how to,
Right.
but it's a mindset lesson. But like, it was huge. And like, when do you ever talk about that stuff in retail? You just, you don't.
It's not a training.
It took me time. Like I studied neuroscience, and then the neuroscience was more or less saying the same thing, right? If you don't believe in something, you're never going to achieve it. And sometimes you have to go really deep to it, to within yourself and within your past as well, and your cognitive functions and all that kind of stuff, and your cognitive biases and all that kind of stuff, to find out why you don't believe in something. But seeing someone else do it, sometimes in retail is like, oh, that store did it. They might have done it for one day, whether it's conversion target, whatever one, but when actually someone does it, and then it's like, oh, actually it can be done. And then it's like, it becomes a competition. You all jump on it. But I think, definitely what Solange said as well about the manager being approachable. The peak season is kind of the time to get your money in and all that kind of stuff. But having that leader who is, super approachable and relaxed, can take you, by the side and comfort you and get you through that stretch is also really important as well. And there's so many, I'm really looking forward to the whole thing, to see, the masters at work in terms of the buying and the merchandising, the security element, the level of people that we've brought, is so powerful. And just, I could listen to everyone, just listening to you and Solange today, April, is magnificent. And I could just sit here for the full day listening to you guys. So I'm sure that our store teams, will be able to learn so much, and this collective learning as well. This collaboration between us all. It's kind of, it's not about one brand or one country. It's kind of the universe coming together. Let's make retail. Forget the apocalypse. Retail will survive. Retail stores are it. There you go.
Yeah, and like, we have speakers from the UK now, from Ireland. Somebody from Portugal is joining now. That just got added this morning, so super excited about that.
Multinational.
It's going to be global, and our goal with this is to really show up in a city one day and actually do it live, because
it's happening.
Put it out there.
We're putting it out there. I've been attending personal development conferences, and Brendan Rashad, who I'm a big fan of and a member of, Growth Day. Like, I've been attending his conferences now and been a part of that membership, and I never meet anybody from retail there, but I meet a lot of people that are into personal growth. But this is what I'm so excited about, to provide a platform for everybody to participate. And you will get the recordings if you can't attend the live. It's not one full day, it's 6 weeks. There's already 12 speakers. Actually, it's going up to about 18 now speakers, including the panels, and there will be a community feed as well, where you can network and like talk with each other and meet other people. So I'm kind of super excited. So wow, it's now, we've been on for half an hour.
That went fast.
It goes so fast. So anyway, I just want to thank you so much, Kareem. Thank you, Solange, for jumping on. And I'm really looking forward to your sessions. I'm really looking forward to the panel, Solange, that you're part of. I'm really looking forward to your session, Kareem, too. Yes. And I'm just really grateful for all of you jumping on board and participating with us. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. The inspiration to start the wheels in motion.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be good.
Yeah. So if you're interested in learning more about Rise Up Retail Summit, the virtual summit upcoming, it's 13 days countdown. Early bird pricing is happening. And I put the links below here so that you can check out what's going on with all the sessions. You can check out all the sessions, share it with your retail friends, tag somebody. I don't know. I always say, when you find this in your feed, share it with somebody, because I know that there's somebody out there that would find this really helpful. So anyway, with that, we'll wrap up for today, and we'll see you again soon.
Ciao, guys.
Bye. See you soon.